kanjeng Nabi Muhammad SAW. Nabi yang mulia dengan kebenaran. Jangan kita biarkan ideologi dan akidah ini terjadi terhadap umat Islam. Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
I'm trying to stay focused, but somehow all I can think of is when you split. I gotta find a motive, play forward, watch every sequence bit by bit. Cause this is my own investigation. I am obsessed with finding out why you left. I keep on searching for the missing pieces, try to find the reason why I ended up without you, baby. I got about a million leads to find the answer why you left me in the cold. I'm turning every stone like a detective. What's your objective? Cause I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me. Like a detective, what's your objective? I guess I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me. I'm lying awake and I'm it while staring holes in the ceiling, I got no clues. You played a trick in my head, can't listen to reason or logic, I'm so confused. I'm caught up in the web of these loose ends that don't lead nowhere. But I won't rest my case until I know. I keep on searching for the missing pieces, trying to find the reason why I ended up without you, baby. I got about a million leads to find the answer why you left me in the cold. I'm turning every stone like a detective. What's your objective? Cause I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me. Like a detective, what's your objective? I guess I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me. I think I will get a second chance. If I solve the puzzle, it would all make sense. But deep inside, I know it's not that simple. Feels like I'm banging my head against the wall. I keep on searching for the missing pieces, trying to find the reason why I ended up without you, baby. I got about a million leads to find the answer why you left me in the cold. I'm turning every stone like a detective. What's your objective? Cause I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me. Like a detective, what's your objective? I guess I'm addicted, I need to know why you rejected me.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone, 大家好, bonjour, and selamat petang. Hello everyone, 大家好, bonjour, and selamat petang. Welcome to our Cultural Exchange and Engagement Workshop. I am Ainadi, Global Engagement and Mobility Global Study Buddies, and also your MC for today. It is my utmost pleasure to meet all of you on this glorious day. Thankfully, despite the pandemic and the many struggles that we faced this year, we are still able to carry out this event. Before we start, there are a few housekeeping rules that I would like you to keep in mind. First of all, please mute your microphone to avoid any disturbance. However, you may unmute yourself when the situation allows you. For example, when you have questions for our Dr. Willing. Feel free to use the chat box to interact with each other so that everyone can enjoy the session better. Alright, fellow audience, you might be wondering what I am wearing right now. It's a very beautiful attire, isn't it? I am wearing the traditional attire of the Sarawak indigenous people called Orang Ulu. Indigenous communities are one of the beautiful communities that are less spoken about. For today's workshop, we will be focusing on the topic of ethnic heritage, the indigenous communities. And today, we're very honored that Dr. Willing are able to join us as our guest speaker for this workshop. Now, allow me to give a brief introduction about our guest speaker today. Dr. Willing is a trained anthropologist, being a part of the indigenous community herself. She is involved in a lot of research on indigenous community development and also engagement. All of her work with the communities have been very supportive and empowering as she engaged the maker, the artisan, and the woman to actively participate in her project. Her most successful research and sustainable community engagement has been the development of the indigenous knowledge of the traditional textile, which is the Iban Puah Kumbu. Furthermore, Dr. Willie also has the past experience of leading a series of educational polysensory exhibition, the Textile Tales of the Puah Kumbu since 2015. Apart from that, Dr. Willie is also an art curator. She created many cultural exhibitions and based on the HIR 2013 until 2016. She also created a community-based enterprise that promotes the traditional Iban Puah Kumbu internationally. With Dr. Willing here, I'm sure that all of you will be enjoying learning about details about the inside of indigenous culture in Malaysia from our guest speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Willing to begin her session.
Good afternoon. Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Whom I cannot see, you can see me. I would like to first to say a few greetings. In Iban, we will say Selamat Datang. In Bidayu, we say Selamat Mendag. I think that's all I know. Okay. So anyway, it is such a pleasure to be here, and I will try to make this as informal as possible so that you feel comfortable and you will be able to follow whatever I will share with you. And I'm trying not to be so academic because I'm supposed to share kind of multi-diverse and also the diversity of our ethnic cultural heritage in Malaysia today. Okay, so I would like to start first with a few words before I go into these discussions. Yeah. So if you would like to ask me any questions in between when I'm speaking, please feel do so. I will take any questions in between, and you can feel free to interrupt me. Okay. So I would like to introduce to you some of the aspects of indigenous people. There are a few groups in Malaysia. They are divided into the indigenous people in the Peninsula Malaysia, and also in Sarawak, and also in Sabah. So the indigenous peoples in Malaysia, who we know as orang asal, Actually, that is not a legal term. It is just to use to address the orang asal in order to translate the word indigenous people. Yeah. So they are not a homogeneous group. So there are at least about 95 subgroups which accompanied by their own distinct language and also culture. So, however, they are all marginalized socioeconomically and culturally in Malaysia. Politically, the native of Sabah and Sarawak are in a relatively better position compared to the orang asli, as they are part of the ruling government. Notwithstanding this political dominance, the socioeconomic status of the majority of indigenous people in East Malaysia still lags behind, as it does with their counterparts in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay. I have some of the things that you can see on the PowerPoint. I know there's a lot of words, but because I tend to speak very fast, so it would be nice for you to read it as well. Yeah. So we always speak about indigenous people, indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge, and we actually in Malaysia, even some of my students in my class, they are unable to differentiate between the orang asli in Peninsula and also the native in Sarawak and also the anak negeri in Sabah. Okay, so I'm not going to explain each one of these because, as I said, there are about 95 different groups, but I will actually explain each of this group according to the Peninsular Malaysia among the orang asli, and then I will explain a little bit about the native of Sabah, and then I will go to the native of Sarawak. And there are going to be a lot of videos that I will share because I think it is more effective. Yeah. Okay, so as you can see there, if you look at the general characteristics of indigenous people in Malaysia, we actually has adopted the United Nations declarations on the rights of indigenous people, which is known as UNDRIP, and endorsed the outcome document of the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples. But we have not ratified ILO Convention 169. Okay, so if you look at the bottom there, as of 2017, the indigenous people of Malaysia were estimated to account for around 13.8% of the over 31 million national population. Yeah. So indigenous people are basically distinct in terms of social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties to the lands and also natural resources, so where they live, occupy, or from which they have been displaced. And what we have to understand is that most of these indigenous people, they are still staying in the rural area, somewhere in the forest, in the peninsula. They are actually living around the periphery of town, of urban area, and a lot of them has been displaced due to economic purposes and also development. Yeah. Okay, so much of the land occupied by indigenous people is under customary ownership. So in Sabah and Sarawak, the native customary law has totally different definitions compared to the orang asli. I will explain to you later what is all these kind of things that we need to understand. Yeah, because each ordinance and each law actually define the indigenous people accordingly. Okay, so the land and natural resources on which they depend are inextricably linked to their identities, cultures, livelihood, as well as their physical and spiritual well-being. I would just like to bring your attention to certain similarities of the indigenous people in Malaysia in comparison to the indigenous people in the Amazon. One of the similarities that we have is that a lot of them are actually using block pipe, they're using spear, and also utilizing all the availability of the natural resources within the social environment they are living in. Yeah. Okay. And the land, and also they often subscribe to the customary leaders and organizations for representation that are distinct or separate from those of the mainstream society and culture. So very often, indigenous people are conceived to be different. They are conceived to be distinctive, and also they are conceived to be speaking many different multi-language that hardly introduced in schools or hardly been able to be heard, because we don't speak this kind of language in public, because we speak English, we speak also Bahasa Malaysia. So eventually, a lot of these language are dying, and especially with intermarriages and also the younger generations, more fluent and prepare and also speaking Bahasa Malaysia in English other than our native language. Yeah. Okay. So I would just like to go slightly into the current challenges because I think we do need to address these kind of challenges, especially now. I mean, now you can't come to Malaysia because of this pandemic, but thanks to the technology, we are able to communicate even if I just have to show you some videos. Yeah. Okay. So there are two main current challenges among the indigenous people. The first one is lockdown. I mean, all over the world, we are facing with this lockdown problem. But among the indigenous people, it hit them and impacted them very hard because they basically depend on the cash economy to sell their products like craft and also jungle products. And also they need food in order to supplement with food aid. And also there was certain kind of help from the government. Yeah. And then secondly, the other problem is the digital divide between the indigenous people students and those of mainstream society was clearly evident due to their locations and also their villages and also they are not allowed to come to school or to the universities. A lot of the learning and also teaching has done online. And a lot of the students are basically having problem to access network. And then they do not have like digital devices. Maybe one family only have one laptop, but if they have brothers and sisters, so that when the problems comes in. Yeah. So majority of the orang asal or the indigenous children were unable to follow the online lessons or could not follow them fully. So this actually worsened the high dropout rate. Okay, so if you look at the continuous challenges, yeah, one of the main challenges that the indigenous people in Malaysia is facing is the incidents and also the issue of logging. Okay, so rationally, logging is regarded as an essential activity. Okay, so all this log actually being cut down from a lot of forests in the peninsula and also in Sabah and Sarawak. And all these log are actually to be used for constructions and also exported to main countries like Japan, China, and a few other countries. Yeah. So the day after the movement control order was enforced, and with the endorsement of the National Security Council, the Ministry of Plantation Industries and Commodities decreed that logging activities should continue as usual, unfortunately, because it looks like our economy is also depending on this kind of activities. So therefore, logging activities has continued throughout the year, despite the COVID-19 restrictions on the operations of businesses and also movement of people. And in the middle and also towards the end of 2020, we saw severe flooding in many areas of the peninsula, and no one disputed the link before deforestations and also the floods. Yeah. So of course, indigenous people, especially the Orang Asli in the peninsula, they are heavily affected by the floods that damage their crops and also destroy the bridges and also the road that seems to be impassable. Yeah. So some of these villages are basically about 8 to 10 hours away from the nearest town, and they need to travel there by motorcycle or four-wheel drive. Yeah. And of course, all those communities affected, securing enough food was always a major concern. Okay, I'm just going to start to speak each one of this group. I will start first with the Orang Asli at the peninsula. If you look at the map there, I don't know if you can see the writing is too small. It's actually the distributions of Orang Asli ethnic group based on state. Yeah, I'm not going to read it all. I hope you can see it and can try to pronounce the word, and you pronounce it as you spell it. Yeah. Okay, so the Orang Asli is a legal term that it used in Malaysia. And if you look at their situation, okay, historically in Peninsular Malaysia, Orang Asli is the earliest population which lives in since about 5,000 years ago. And this is scientifically proven through archaeological research and also through genome research. Okay, so it is believed that most of them coming from China and Tibet, which followed the migration routes through mainland of Southeast Asia before the foothold in the Peninsula, Malaysia, and Indonesia archipelago. Okay, so the Orang Asli name is actually a Malay term which transliterate as original people or first people, or in some other countries it's called the First Nation. People of the land, people of the earth. Yeah. So it is a collective term introduced by anthropologists and also administrators for the 18 sub-ethnic groups generally classified for official purposes under Semang, who are under the category of Negrito, and then you have the Senoi, and also you have the Aboriginal Malay, which is also known as Proto-Malay. Okay. So, however, as I mentioned before, the Orang Asli is not a homogeneous group. I will show you later in some of the videos that I'm going to share with you. So each of these ethnic group has its own language and culture and perceive itself as different from the others. But in general, we in Malaysia, we just call them the Orang Asli without even knowing that each one of them actually has different ethnic, different dialect, and also different customary. Okay, so linguistically, some of the Northern Orang Asli group, like for example, the Senoi and Negrito group, speak languages which nowadays term as Aslian languages that suggest a historical link with the indigenous peoples in Burma, in Thailand, and also Indochina. Okay, so prior to European colonization, the Malacca Sultanate was based on the naval prowess of Orang Laut sailors. Okay, Orang Laut in alliance with Malay rulers. So, however, the Orang Asli were captured and enslaved by the Malays, and Orang Asli used to be referred to as Sakai, meaning slave, or by the derogatory expression, I can never pronounce the word, derogatory expression, which means the Semang. Yeah. Okay, so Semang actually is a term that is actually related to one of the species of the monkeys. So it is a very derogatory expression. So I just want to continue a little bit on the history so that you understand why Orang Asli, how do you call that, seems to be different from the Malay, the Chinese, the Indian. Yeah. Okay. So the Orang Asli remained largely isolated until the middle of the 19th century and were able to maintain control over parts of the interior of Malaysian Peninsula as they had little economic or strategic interest to colonial authorities. Yeah. So during the 1950s, yeah, insurgency known as the emergency, however, that include the communists and also guerrillas often fled to the mountainous areas inhabited by the Orang Asli. You know, some of whom cooperated with the guerrillas because of their traditional hostility towards Malay. Okay, so the British basically established fortified settlements, often with health clinics or schools, to resettle the Orang Asli and isolate them from communist contact. Yeah. So at the Department of Aborigines that was created back in 1950s, which was called Jabatan Hal Ehwal Orang Asli. After independence, eventually became the Department of the Orang Asli Affairs. Yeah, official government policy is to convert the community to Islam. Okay, it's very hard for me to look at the camera. It's not that I'm a camera shy. Okay, so from the 1960s, the Malaysian government began a policy of integration, which means step to modernize the Orang Asli by introducing cash crop agriculture and discouraging traditional hunter-gathering and nomadic activities. Education, which is mainly in the Malay language, and replacing traditional leaders by government-appointed headmen. So as you can see, the whole structure has been dismantled in order to make them embracing the new structure of government. Okay, so from the 1960s, the Malaysian government began a policy of integration, which means steps to modernize the Orang Asli by introducing different type of activities distinct from what they are used to. Of course, like hunter gathering and nomadic activities are totally not encouraged because they would like them to be settled. So the purpose for them to be settled is basically so that they are easy to be secured and easy to be handled. Okay. So from the 1980s, the policy of integrating the Orang Asli has taken an even more pronounced religious connotations. Yeah. So the Department of Orang Asli Affairs, for example, has activities aimed at spiritual development of the Orang Asli, widely seen to refer to the conversion of Orang Asli to Islam, but also there's Christians, there's Buddha, there's Hindu who has come into the Orang Asli village in order to convert them. Okay, so however, in general, basically, Malaysia's relative economic success after the 1980s and 1980s has brought with it increased pressure on the Orang Asli, especially in terms of land rights. And that's the whole reason why, until today, we still have Orang Asli who still claiming the land rights. There's a whole lot of story. If you want to know about all these issues of the land right, you just type Orang Asli plus land right on YouTube. You will have all the lists of incidents, of blockades, of demonstrations. Now we go to slide 6. Okay, so the politics with Orang Asli. If you look at what I wrote there, yeah, it is actually the situation since 2018. And why I highlight it, because it's very significant in the sense that we have change of government in 2018 when Alliance of Hope or Pakatan Harapan government basically was seen relatively indigenous friendly, having specifically outlined in its election manifesto the intention to support Orang Asal rights to their customary lands and to adopt the principles of UNDRIP. Okay, so as you can see, I listed down there was an establishment of an institutional reforms committee, which had representations for Orang Asli reforms, and then organizing National Convention on Orang Asli Development with more than 700 Orang Asli leaders participating. Also, the appointment of an Orang Asli anthropologist, my dear good friend, Professor Juliedo, who was teaching at the Department of Anthropology, became the Director General at the Department for Orang Asli, but he has been not terminated, but his contract ends this year. Okay. However, the new Perikatan Negara or National Alliance tends to be more pro-non-indigenous in its directions and policies. Yeah? So Orang Asal interests or Orang Asli interests do not feature highly in its political priorities. Maybe there's some kind of agenda or reasons. So it is evidently in November 2020 through the presentation of the budgets. Okay, now enough with the gloomy and depressing issues. Let's go to slide 7. I'm going to present to you a few groups of dominant Orang Asli because these are the Orang Asli that you can find on YouTube, the one who actually able to continue their traditions and able to communicate and connect to wider audience, not just local Malaysians through different kind of festivals, events organized together with NGOs or also government bodies, but also based on their own initiative. Okay, the Mahmeri are the original people in Pulau Keri. Now Pulau Keri or Keri Island is dominated by some Dabi to establish palm oil plantations, and they only still inhabiting some of the lands by the sea. Okay, so the Mahmeri has a lot of specialties. And why do I highlight them? I work with them very closely for many years. They have beautiful weaving, as you can see in the picture. I will show you later. They make beautiful origami, not just the Japanese making origami, they also make origami and they make it from leaves. I have actually one video that I will show you later how they make this. And in terms of traditional costume, it's very environmental friendly. The shirt is actually made from bark tree, and the dress is made from woven origami that groups together. And as you can see, there are many different shapes that they make. And later, I will also explain to you the significance of masks. Okay, I will not explain to you, but I will show you the Mahmari folklores in order to make you understand why they are wearing all these kind of masks. So, the Mahmari actually is very close to the culture of Chinese because they also look at the lunar calendar. Yeah, and I'm just trying to find. Okay, so what Mahmari means is forest people. It means people who live in the forest. Mah means people. Mari means forest. Okay, so and similar to most of other tribes, the Mahmari originally live in the forest. But of course, now they live in the forest of the palm oil, which is not the same. So according to the elders, the Mahmari originated from Johor Lama, also known as Kota Tinggi. Okay. However, some researchers are of the opinion that the Mahmari are not originally from Malaysia, but actually they belong to the Senoi, who are believed to come from Cambodia and Vietnam. Genetic research has so far classified the Mahmari community as descendants of the Mongoloid people. Okay, Mongoloid is a very derogatory term as well because anthropologists only categorize 3 different types of people in this world. And of course, over decades and centuries, it has been diluted. So originally, they have Caucasoid, they have Negroid, and they have Mongoloid. So all of us in this room in Asia is categorized as Mongoloid. Okay. So in terms of religion, the Mahmari are animists. The Mahmari depend on the forest and sea for their livelihood, and their spiritual life closely revolves around them. So this is expressed in their figurines, which are intimate, connected to the ancestors and the natural environment. So the Mahmari actually believe that there are 2 forms, the good and the bad. Okay, like everybody else, but the way they express the good and the bad is very, very interesting. So various ceremonies are conducted as a sign of respect and to appease the spirits or the unseen beings believed to be responsible for structuring as well as meting out punishment on their lives. Okay, I would like to share the video, what we call Hari Moyang, where actually it is translated as Ancestors' Day. Is one of the most important and biggest festivals celebrated by the Mahmari community living in Keri Island. Yeah? So they explain that this festival is celebrated 30 days after Chinese New Year because they also observe the lunar calendar. Okay, can we play the video? Is that? Okay, so Hari Moyang basically celebrated in 3 locations, yeah, which are the house, which called Moyang Gadeng, who looks after the central part of the village, and then you have Moyang. Okay, Moyang means ancestors, meaning that the old people who has passed in the past, who actually come to take care of them. Yeah. So Moyang Amai, who basically looks after the areas in the fringe of the village. And then you have Moyang Keteng, who looks after the areas in the northernmost parameters of the village. So for the Mahmari who live near the coast, this ceremony will be conducted on the beach and called Puja Pantai. Okay, basically there's some similarities with one of the ethnic groups in Sarawak as well, who are among the Malanao. They have a thing called Pesta Kau, which is almost similar to Puja Pantai. Yeah. Okay, so Moyang in the context of the Mamari refer to their ancestors and also their natural environment. Okay, so their ancestors is actually their natural environment. So the ancestors who are supposed to be present at Hari Moyang or Moyang Getah, Moyang Melur, Moyang Tok Naning, Moyang Bojos, and Moyang Tok Pekong Cina. You see, they also adapted some of the ideas and also practices of the Chinese, but it doesn't mean that they are converting to become Chinese, yeah, just to adapting some of this. So if you see the mask in the video, that is actually Moyang Tok Naning and Moyang Bojos. And usually these are the 2 masks that they are wearing when they do the dance. Okay, so these ancestors are believed to protect the community's happiness and are also capable of punishment. Therefore, the Mahmari believe in reviving and appeasing them. And they are also famous as carvers who carve in form of figurines and masks, which are very closely connected to their ancestors and environments. And each of these masks and figurines has its own name. Yeah. Okay, so I would like to share with you the folklores that actually speak about all these important moyang that they actually appease with in order to create balance in their social environment. Can we have the Mahmari folklores?
Moyang tok naning hok ke dia dak mengat temai musim be tebek dikio dak mak me temai dak mak kampuk kumpul semangat be dikio ca semayak nah hala semayak anu semangat padi dikio semangat be nah hala dak ju mo tare ju dike dak mak moyang mu benar moyang ni kio ngi kayak sebab nama ni ke dah juuh kinong ke juuh gumbang juuh kinong ke moyang kinong ke kaya lah dak mungkin no macam mak kampung kinong ke main juuh mungkin pun macam kaya pati mungkin macam kayak mungkin pun rumah ke kajet le dekat bersama an kurang kinong bersenampak bersama moyang kinong kita macam tu naning kinong ke mungkin masa nimbul hak mui dikio mui pati dikio abang ni hak moyang kinong ke nama salah mo ko dong ya toh leh dong ya ajaknya bertari bersama-sama terejo kinong ke kinong abang ya ki gelah homa bualnya abang hak anu kinong ke ha mak kinong ha bumu kinong ke moyang tok naning kurangnya ki celau engkah kurangnya min celawaknya mai pohok engkah nya pui peningnya diki no gelahi kino kurangnya tok naning mek pohok Nino main jauh kinong ke bel lagu mit pohok kinong ke kui pening nong ke bila time anu jauh juga mesti tok naning sidak dikeleh anu gelahana mu yang tok naning
Okay, is that it? So I hope you have enjoyed the folklores and stories. Maybe next time when you are able to come to Malaysia, you can suggest to make a trip to meet the Mahmari people in Bulakari. They are basically only like 45 minutes, and if you take Grab or AirAsia app, it's only about 45 ringgit to 47 ringgit. So anyway, okay. There's another thing interesting about the Mahmari is that they are very good in weaving. Okay, so not just the origami, but they also weave a lot of different type of baskets. And I would like you later to look on YouTube. Just put Mahmari weaving baskets or Mahmari weaving bookmarks. And a lot of their bookmarks are actually has been sold in Malaysian Airlines by AirAsia, for example, and it has been the item that a lot of international students buy and bring back to their own country. Okay, so I just want to tell you a little bit of story about the weaving and using the leaves to weave baskets. Yeah, um, it is not like they can go and collect the leaves any time of the day or every day. They have to follow a strict taboo. Like for example, they don't want to cut the leaves, the pandanus leaves, when it's a little bit wet or rainy, because then all the grasshopper will go and eat the leaves. So that will damage the whole new leaves that is coming out. Yeah. So in a year, they could probably collect about 6 to 7 times of the leaves, and they will dry it first, and then they will color it, and then only then they will weave. So the whole journey and also process to prepare a small basket. I actually don't have the basket here. It will take about 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay. So, can we show the weaving of origami? So there's at least a little bit of lesson to look at. Christmas is coming for those who celebrate Christmas, so you can actually learn how to do origami. That's it. There is actually the origami that's supposed to look like the prawns. Yeah. And in the slide, basically, I put up the birds on top of the nest. The second one, the first one is a fish. The third one is also a bird with nice feathers. The other one I can't really see. But anyway, okay, so this is about the Mahamari. Do you have any questions to ask? Okay, no questions? Any question? No questions. Okay. I will continue with another orang asli ethnic group. You can go to the Tamuan slide. Okay. I purposely don't want to explain to you each ethnic group's traditions and also practices, because a lot of these practices, they don't practice it anymore since they are Muslim, they are Christians, and also they are Hindu. Some are also embracing Buddhism. Okay. So the next one that I would like to share with you is the indigenous orang asli, which known as Tamuan. And the Tamuan, actually, they are living in Kuala Selangor, mainly around Selangor area. And there are also some Tamuan who live in Pulau Keri. Okay, so as you can see here, I actually highlight a very good friend of mine. His name is Shak Koyo. He's a very well-known Tamuan artist, the only Tamuan artist actually. And he has traveled all over the world to speak about his artwork, to speak about his ethnic groups, about their struggle to protect the land, to claim land, and also about their advocacy in order to protect nature's ecosystem. So I'm just going to read what he wrote famously. He said, I discovered the pandanus weaving perfect as the canvas for painting in 2017. I have been collecting the pandanus weaving made as my hobby now. I'm using it as my canvas, and it's sustainable material. Most importantly, it made me appreciate nature more. So as you can see here, the Tamuan and also whole lot of the other indigenous people, we actually really appreciate what is available in nature, and we always try to use whatever sources in our day-to-day life, not just pandanus that we weave as mats. As you can see that Shakoyo actually used this material as his canvas, and it's really beautiful. He has exhibited a lot of his work in New York, in London, in Australia, in New Zealand. You know, he travels everywhere. Okay, so what interesting about his work is that he is not only trying to bring out the traditions, which is actually protect nature's ecosystem, but he is also advocating for the land rights and also to tell government that the orang asli, especially the Tamuan, need their land because their life is attached to that land, their identity is attached to that land. Okay, can we go to the YouTube of Shakoyo? I just want to show some of his artwork. Okay, there is one picture that he was standing in front of the big mural on the building. That building is actually at University Malaya. It is actually the bungalow that we use for a research center called Center for Malaysian Indigenous Studies. And the mural are still there. So in case next year you can come here, you can actually go there and have a look. Yeah. Okay. By all the same person? Yes. Sorry, I didn't see your question. Okay. Shakoya is always around, and he actually always available when I call him to give talks to students, and also to speak with a lot of international students. I used to invite him for my lectures, and he also conduct different techniques of the temuan, how they draw and also how they perceive nature to put on the canvas. Yeah, and especially now it is very interesting because he actually used this mat to draw. Okay, there's another YouTube video I would really like to share with you because he developed this technique by himself. And in case you would like to learn, so you can actually see it on the YouTube video, which is just under Instagram. Can you play that, please? Okay, it says thanks for watching. So I can see some of the comments. I'm just looking at the comment. So I'm not looking at the camera. So it says Pandanus weaving mat Malay. Pandanus weaving is actually practiced by the Malay and also by the Orang Asli. So the mat that you see in the video that is used as canvas is actually woven by his auntie, yeah, also Tamuan. And according to Shah, he likes to use the weaving of, of, of the weavers that he is going to paint on the mat itself. Okay, so when he wanted to paint his auntie, he asked his auntie to weave the mat. And I jokingly asked him, can you paint me? He said, you have to weave the mat. And of course, I don't weave the mat, so he will never paint me. Yeah. Okay, so I really enjoyed that you actually like that. Oh, there's another two questions. I forgot to bring my glasses. That's why I cannot see. Uh, how many hours for him to finish this art? Okay, Shah is a very unique person. He is one of a kind artist. On the painting itself, on the mat, it can take him 3 days. It can take him a few months. But the most impressive work that I have seen him doing was the huge mural of the Mahmari dancer that you saw in the video, which is on the pink color building where he was actually standing at the front. We started that. I didn't paint with him, but I was actually assisting him by looking at him painting. We started when we just had the window of MCO opening last year in July, and it took him only about 3 weeks. The whole building. He was fixing the, I don't know what is the name of the thing that you use in constructions to climb up. And then he was using a brush that we actually tie on a long broomstick as an extension, and he couldn't even reach the wall. He was like jumping and painting. You know, it's very impressive work. So I would really like you to meet him one day if you are able to come here. So he is one of a kind and he's very generous. He just teach anyone who would like to learn. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not just going to speak about the male indigenous artist. There's another artist. She is half Tamuan, half Samalai. Among the indigenous people, they have also intermarriages. Yeah, but Shah is from Selangor, and the next one is Lenny Makno. Lenny is also our resident artist at the center previously, and she is living in Seremban Negeri Sembilan. Okay, you can show the slide where I allocate for her. If you look at all of these drawings that she did, it's really, really impressive. The first time when she came to our center, I thought it was a photograph. You know, you can see the hair strand by strand. So she is also advocating for the indigenous people by highlighting the beauty and also faces, because she was saying that no one knows how the Orang Asli children looks like. Obviously, because the Orang Asli children, they don't really go out from the village. We only see them if we go to do research in their villages and if they go to the hospital, you know. Only when they are sick, they come out. Because even the school is located nearby the village. So, being half Temuan and half Samalai, she actually embraced two different cultures. Not very different, but the way it look at things is totally different from her, because she grew up in the village, but she also have a diploma in teaching, but she never learned how to draw. It's actually natural talents, very gifted, and it's very, very, very gifted. It's really beautiful. Okay, can we just watch the video where she actually do the nice drawings? This is self-portrait. She said, "This is how I see myself 20 years ago." If you want to look at her video, you can actually just type her name on YouTube. Okay, so I purposely show you the indigenous people's talents because I do not want you to think that we all live in the forest, we all dress funny, you know. I just want you to know that they all look like us, they all look like you, you know. So even myself, I'm a bidayu, I do not dress in my costume every day. It is very rarely actually, just once a year when we celebrate Harvest Festival, which I will share with you later. Okay, so do you have questions? No? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to bring you back to the traditional aspect of orang asli. So this is also a kind of very artistic element of the indigenous people. I chose the Tamiya and also the Jahai. If you look at the PowerPoint slides, the two pictures of a male and a female there, they are actually the Tamiya. Yeah, I've met them. Yeah. So these groups, they are very unique in the sense that even the male is actually wear flowers on their hair because we usually think that only female put flowers, colorful flowers on their head. But it is a kind of practice they do and a kind of costume. Again, we're talking about environmental friendly. They don't go and buy crown or metal or whatever. They pick up anything that is available in their social surrounding to make these beautiful headbands for rituals, for parties in their village. Okay, so I also speak about the Jahai. If you look at the picture at the bottom, so this is a Jahai man. He doesn't wear headdress, but he has a very special nose piercing, and he is one of the last men or male actually among the Jahai who still have this kind of piercing, because they only wear like this when they perform sewang. Okay, sewang is actually a traditional dance or song performed by the orang asli, the Timia and also Jahai. Sometimes the Jahut also presenting this, and originally it was performed for healing, for funeral, for Thanksgiving, or to treat the sick or the wounded. And now it is also used to entertain foreign travelers. You don't want to know what they sing. They could be singing something funny about you. Yeah. So it involves dancing in a circle to music produced by bamboo. I must tell you, the first sewang that I experienced, it lasts us until 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were singing and dancing the whole night. And surprisingly, we didn't even feel tired. And when we asked, why aren't we feel tired? They say, oh, the spirits everywhere, they actually energize you. It's a kind of very positive thing. Yeah. Okay, but I also invited some of them to perform at University Malaya, and it's very, very special because they don't normally perform outside of their village, only when they are invited to perform in events for Malaysia traditional events, for example. Okay, can we play the sewang? Very beautiful sound of bamboo.
nó mê para sẽ là bơ như thế mà đâu like a para se come tôi nhủ ở lư ngã ra mẹ mà đâu anh đâu từ lấy coi para se come Tapi selamat oi mẹ ra mẹ But oh, I know what you're right, but I suppose selamat untuk ramai. But oh, I know what you're like a bag, oh, come to me, bag, I want to be có thể mà đâu chưa rồi Chúa ơi đã mẹ là đứa nghe sao sơ ra ra yến đi chứ nó ra mẹ But oh, I know what you're going long and solid. Sẽ xôn từ là cái bag sẽ mang nhà ra mẹ. Ok, terima kasih.
Okay, I can see that there's 3 questions. Are they celebrating something? Yes, they were celebrating the Indigenous Day that was taken in 2019. I actually invited them to perform for our event with Education New Zealand and also the Australian High Commission, where each of these countries actually performing. So what language of the song? No, it's not Malay. They are actually speaking Tamil. They sing in Tamil language. So what are they singing about? That is very hard to say because they might be singing something else that we don't understand. But the main thing is that it is a kind of giving thanks for inviting them and that they are happy to be there. As I expected, I never asked what they were singing. So anyway, okay. And there's another question. Melody sounds the same like Kenyah Belian. Okay, I will show you later the Kenyah Belian. Maybe yeah, I do have later when I come into Sarawak. Okay, so we started to become very musical now. So we leave the land of Peninsula. Now I'm going to take you to the land of the Hornbill, they call it. Yeah. So we move to Sarawak now. Okay, Sarawak is Kuching is the capital city, and it is 1 hour and 45 minutes flight from Kuala Lumpur. And in Sarawak, I'm from Sarawak. I'm from Kuching, the south. And my ethnic group is called Bidayu. And there's 5 different type of Bidayu. We actually don't really like the name Bidayu because it's not really a name that we give to ourselves. In Sarawak, the indigenous collectively known as native, and we are actually designated under native customary right, land, and native customary law. So there are 28 different ethnic groups. Iban, of course, Bidayu, the Kenyah, Kayan, Kedayan, Lun Bawang. But I must tell you that all of these ethnic groups, they are categorized into 3 major groups. Okay, so the Iban and Bidayu, they call them as the Dayak. And the Kenyah, Kayan, Kedayan, Lun Bawang, Punan, Bisaya, Kelabit, Berawan, and all these, they actually category into the Orang Ulu. Okay, so the Penan, who are still semi-nomadic and nomadic, which I will show you later towards the end of this presentation. They actually not considered the Orang Ulu. They are very distinctive. Yeah. Okay. So they constitute around 70.5% of Sarawak's population of over almost 3 million people. So basically, our state is almost as big as Peninsula, and we are 70.5% indigenous people, native, living in Sarawak. Okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so Iban is actually the biggest group in Sarawak, and they are very unique in so many different ways. I will tell you a story. Once upon a time, they were known as the headhunters of the land. But if you read books by foreign scholars and also by government officers who have to face them at the time, they wrote that the Iban were the savage, they were barbaric, they were barbarians because they go around and cut people's head. But that is actually not true. The Iban go and headhunt. They don't even headhunt. They actually know who they're going to cut, you know. So they would go to certain longhouse and they will cut the head of the leader of the village and bring it back to their own longhouse. Why did they do that? They don't go around cut woman's head or vulnerable persons or individual. They only take the head of powerful, very strong person, especially the leaders and the warriors from the other tribe, or the warriors and leaders from the other villages. Why? Because every time when they have dreams about something is bad going to happen to their village, or somebody dream that they will have death, funeral, or people might get sick, they would send headhunting trips to bring new energy, to bring new spirits, to bring new spirituals, invisible philosophy, you call it, in order to create balance again in the village. And that's the whole reason why they have these headhunting trips and headhunting ceremonies. Okay. Upon coming back from the headhunting trips, of course, all these warriors will be celebrated. The head that they have captured and brought back would be treated like newborn baby. So this head, they would place it in the nice textile that you see in the background, that you see also on my table here, not the one that I'm wearing, but in the slide you can see three different textiles. You can also see on the wall the yellow one and also the blue one. So each of these textile, each piece actually have a different name, a different design, although they look almost similar in terms of patterns, but each of this motif, when it being brought together, it make a design and it has a folklore story. Okay, like the one on the slide. If you look at the slide, back to the slide, the first one, the blue color. The story behind that blue color is just to speak about the mountainous snake. Yeah, nothing more. It's just mountain snake. So they put it in a very abstract way. So if you look at the design in the middle, that actually speak about a little star that is playing somewhere in the universe. And it is actually called Gelanggang Langit Jerit Bintang Tiga. I don't know how to translate it, but that is a name. It's like you can't translate your name. Yeah. So sometimes when I give a gift to somebody and they ask me to translate the name, I said, no. It's like you cannot translate your name into English, you know, the same way I cannot translate it because this is the name. So some of this textile, it comes with a folklore, it comes with a long story, and most of the stories basically related to the gods and goddess who live in the upper world. So in Iban cosmology, there's only two worlds that they speak about. They don't speak about the world of the dead. They only speak about the gods, goddess, because it's beautiful. And they have every piece of story woven on this particular textile. So there is a story woven to speak about the journey of a princess from the God's world coming down to Iban world. And this piece is actually called Jembatan Gantung Nanga Panggau. Yeah, Nanga Panggau is the name of the world, and Jembatan Gantung means suspension bridge. So in the story, you don't really see the bridge. It's floating, of course. Gods and goddess can walk. Yeah, it's like Jesus walk on water, something that you never understand. Okay, so human cannot go to the other world. There have been a few attempts. They even recorded in the Puak Kubu weaving. Okay, the textile is called Puak Kubu. Sorry, I forgot to introduce you. Pua means blanket, Kumbu means to wrap. Yeah. There was a story about an Iban man who tried to meet his brother who has been accepted by the gods to live with them upper world. So he tried to connect the Iban world to the gods world and build long bridges. But because he doesn't have the right to go up, the gods was shooting him with thunder, with star, and all the ladder fell down and he actually died. He could be dead because there was no story or design about him afterwards. Yeah. Okay, so and this textile is the symbol identity of the Iban because they are the only ethnic group in Malaysia who actually weave this way. In Indonesia, you actually can call this technique as ikat, and that is also the Malay word. In Iban, you call it kabat, and it can be worn as a shawl, like I cut mine in jackets. You can also wear it as sarong, but you cannot just wear any design. So some design, especially the one with the human figures or any kind of figures, you are not supposed to wear it. And one of the rules is that you cannot put the puak kumbu on the floor because it's a taboo. It's supposed to be something that you put on the wall. It's like on the slide on the second photograph where you see the lady is weaving with backstrap loom. That's how it is woven. And there is her creation on the wall. Can they see the slide? Okay. There's a big cloth on the wall that is actually called Karak Merayung. So Karak Merayung also has a very interesting story. It's always about love. It's always about the beautiful princess. It's always about the handsome, good-looking prince, which is normally called Keling. Okay, but in Malaysia, when we speak about Keling, people thought it would be Indian. But in this case, no. I have some incidents in my exhibition. With Indian from India. When I told them the story about the Keling, is he Indian? Is he Indian? No, it's Ibab. So it's very funny when you can see actually the intermarriage of culture because back in the day, the design that the Iban are weaving are actually very similar to the patola design that you can find in Gujarat, India. Yeah? Because of the exchange of trade back in 9th or 10th centuries. All right. So this is the particular textile. This is the particular textile. This is funny. That actually being used to take the head and to be wrapped before the head is actually brought to the head house and being smoked so that to keep it alive. And they actually give offerings to the head, to the skull, so that it's continuously giving a lot of positive energy. In a way, it looks barbaric, but in another way, look at it, they just want to have this spiritual being to be in their longhouse to keep them safe. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show to make you listen and try to pronounce the word in a very traditional song that still use traditional sound but sang in a much contemporary way. It's called Sabak Pulai. The Iban are very good in so many things, but you don't really see it because their younger generations don't really pick up, especially the weaving. It takes a lifelong learning. It has a lot multi levels. I did not. Uh, how do you call it? I did not provide the videos to show you here because there will be too many. So I just want to share with you Sabak Pulai. It is actually a song in Iban language, which is sung when you are mourning and crying for someone who are going away. Going away can mean two things. It can mean this person is dead, or this person has traveled so far away with no intention to come back. Okay, can we sing it together? The YouTube. No, not this one. That's ngajat. The first one. Yes, this one.
Nyapa keberai Nerutu hujan Seilu-ilu Ngeringit jalai Ngerintai tuai Nyeraut lemah Ayam di pantai yuk kita tuai Dinime kita Oh wayasi Nica kebisi Temu kejalai Anang beguai Hingga ke kami Ke Batang Mandai Ruai yang ke Batang Mandai Ruai Did you enjoy it? I can see some of the there's a lot of comments there, but I think mostly coming from Tala from Pakistan. Can you identify yourself?
Hello, Tala. I saw that you're married to the song. This new messages. Okay, suddenly she go disappear. Okay, some of you was asking about what this song is for. Yeah, Oh, it's a he. It's not a she. Okay. Okay. This song is sung specifically, like I said, he was. I need to see the lyrics in order to describe to you, but never mind. I will provide it next time you come, and we can learn it together and understand the meaning. So it is just about how how the person who sing feels about the departure of the loved ones going away, perhaps not coming back, you know. So a lot of the words that put together into this song, you cannot translate it sentence by sentence because it is in context. It's almost like a poem. Okay, the Iban are very good in making a lot of poems that is out of context, sounds so beautiful, but you can only tell the story, but you cannot ever translate what it says. Yeah. So I'm actually working with the master weaver, the one that you see on the slide, and also her big picture over there. Her name is Bangi Anambol, and she is actually 78 years old. So I've been working with her to 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 document all these photos and also to document the stories of the textile. So some of the songs that is sung in Iban song is related to the story which are actually documented in the textile. Yeah. And I invited her to sing at the research center back in 2019. She was able to sing everything out of heart because it is something that she has woven. She knows every words, but of course I could not translate because it's very hard to translate abstract poems. I mean, English poem is easy to translate because it's just like sentence by sentence, and Malay poems is also easy to translate, but Iban poems is almost like I can compare it with Klingon language. You know, if you watch Star Wars, Star Trek, all this science fiction, it's almost like that. You you cannot make sense what it says, but you can understand the story. Okay, so not just the textile, the head hunting, but they also have this beautiful dance called ngajat. Ngajat basically is the main name of the dance, but they have ngajat Indo, where only women are doing the dance, and they also have ngajat laki for the male, and 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 when a male is doing the dance, it is actually depicting about his greatness, about his warriorness, you know, as the chief of the headhunter or as the warrior who has just come back. And there is a ritual and celebration called Gawai Antu. Gawai Antu means ghost. How do I say? It means ghost spirit, and Gawai means ritual. So it's a kind of celebration of ghost or spirit or whatever related to head hunting. So that's when the head of the head hunting parties will perform this dance. And the dance is so graceful that if you have broken knee, you definitely cannot perform this dance. Yeah. So it's all like you have to bend your knee all the time. So let's watch the more contemporary dance because I couldn't get the old way of dancing Ajat. Can we just go to the YouTube and I'll show you? And this one was performed at the research center about 2 years ago. No, not performed at the research center. Sorry, I was looking at the picture. Okay. Okay, as I said, if you have broken knee, you cannot do the dance, or if you have gout, yeah, because it's bending the whole time. And imagine they would be dancing like that the whole night for 3 days, for 4 days. Of course, in between they stop, they eat, they go to the toilet, all those kind of things. But festivals in the village, the longhouse will go on for 3-4 days, yeah. So anyway, so that is the Iban people. I mean, what I presented to you is just like very small in comparison to the whole traditional practices that they have. They also do rice wine. They also do rooster fighting. I don't want to use the other word. And rooster fighting, you can actually find it in Bali, Indonesia, for example. And they also do longboat competition in those days. Now, every longhouse, they don't do it anymore. But in Sarawak, we do have a thing called regatta. Regatta is when every divisions in the state will send a representative in order to do these competitions. Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to another ethnic group, the Bidayu. So this is my ethnic group. Okay, so as you can see in the picture, only old women wear those kind of costume. Yeah. Okay, so as I said before, yeah, among the Iban, it's not so obvious that there are differences in terms of dialect, because the Iban can speak each other dialect even if they come from different region. Yeah, like I speak all the Iban dialects, and sometimes you get mixed up, but the meaning is still the same. But among the Bidayu, there's 5 different groups that totally don't understand each other if we don't learn each other's languages. Yeah. Okay. So what you see in the picture, these are the last old women, old ladies who have been the priestess for harvest festivals, and this is the last batch of old women who can still perform the singing on the swing. However, we were not allowed to record what they sing about, so I cannot share with you. So during this 2 years pandemic, harvest festival rituals were not able to perform. So it could be they are performing one of the last time if they don't have COVID, if they're still alive, then we will be able to record and be able to share with everybody. So I'm just going to show you how these rituals are. Then I will speak about who the Bidayu are, okay? Because it's all related to the ritual. The old languages still exist. Which language? The Iban or the Bidayu? Okay, I will just answer your question randomly. The Iban still speak Iban. All the words are still intact. They even have Iban English, Iban Bahasa Malaysia dictionary, which has thousands of words. Yeah, and also their language has been preserved because those days the missionary who came over to Sarawak, the first thing they did was to translate Bible into native language. That's the only way for them to capture the local converts, and also it is a way to educate the locals to be able to learn how to read and write. Okay, so they still speak 100% Iban with the additional words of Chinese, Malay, English. Yeah, and for the native Bidayu, all the 5 dialects still spoken today. Actually, I speak 4 out of 5 of these dialects. Yeah, I'm an anthropologist, so it's just natural. Okay, so that's the reason why also I am able to work with a lot of indigenous communities because of the language. Because we do believe that if you want to really research and learn about the culture of certain indigenous communities, you have to start with the language first, because what you understand might not what they want to say to you. Yeah. Okay. So why I want to speak about harvest festival ritual, because it's a dying tradition. Most of the Bidayu are actually Christians or Muslim. Some even become Buddhist, and some practice Hindu if they are married to Indian, for example. And a lot of the costume that you see in the picture on the slide, we don't have it anymore. They are wearing antiques. Yeah. So we only have this kind of costume in our cupboards for display, not to be worn because we scared that it might torn or something. And the accessories that they wear, those are actually real teeth from wild boar or from the deer, or from bears. So not everybody can wear this kind of accessories. Only those who are worthy. And of course, those who are worthy are the priestess. And these priestess, they're actually growing up, learning the song, and they grow up to perform the rituals. Okay, so can we just watch the video for Harvest Festival ritual? Okay, I can see there are two questions there. Is this a sacrifice activity? Prayer for the ancestors? The costumes are passed from time to time or recreated every year. Okay, so this activity is actually, let me start first with the story. It always comes with the story. So that's the difficulties of telling this whole 95 different ethnic groups in 2.5 hours. Yeah. So the Harvest Festival in Bidayu community, also in East Malaysia, Sabah, and also among the Iban, it is actually to celebrate and pray for the abundance of harvest of rice for the following year, and to give thanks to whatever they have received for this year. Yeah. So the offering that they are giving was actually for the spirits, not ancestors. We don't actually pray to ancestors, yeah, but we pray to spirits who actually the guardian of the rice. And in the video, if you remember, that there's a group of women actually gather at the small shrine that they built from leaves. Inside that shrine, they actually have two different baskets. So each of this basket, they put seed of rice, and that seed of rice later are going to be dry and to be put together with the other seed of rice as a blessing, so that the harvest for the coming year will be much more abundant compared to this year. Okay, and then the second question, the third question, the costume of past time to time. Okay, the costume that you saw, all of these old ladies wearing, it is actually being passed down to generations. Yeah. So if you look carefully, some of the skirts are very similar to the Iban. In fact, there is a theory saying that the weaving was actually coming from the old Bidayu group those days, and this particular Bidayu group marry into the Iban family. But I don't know if that theory is true. Yeah. So this is the kind of culture that you can see, like intermarriage of certain elements that is borrowed from another ethnic groups and to be made yours. But in Sarawak, we don't really care whose costume, whose color, as long as it is significant to the rituals that we are conducted, we are wearing it. Except that the Bidayu are wearing the skull cap, which is black, white, and red. Among the skull cap, among the orang ulu, they make it from beads. I'll show you later after I speak about the bidayu. Okay, so other than harvest festival ritual, as you can see the video, there's different type of food, and they only use leaves, they use bamboo. So again, we are emphasizing on the natural environment. Until today, our favorite time is cooking in bamboo, or we do barbecue. And perhaps you realize that pig or pork is the main sacrificial animal in any ritual. So even among the Iban, or even among the Orang Ulu, for example, pigs is very significant not because it's a holy animal. Yeah, of course it's haram in some other cultures, but that is actually the animal that you can find easily, and it has been passed down to generations of village. And it normally has a very significant in terms of social values, political values, and also economic values. Why? Because the more pigs you have, meaning that the more asset, the richer you are. And if you don't have pigs, for example, if in case you break certain kind of taboos, you will be in problems because no one would give you or donate to you a pig. So you need to have your own. I give you one for example. In Sabah, you call it sogit. Okay? In Sarawak, in my language, there is no name for it. We don't actually communicate. To be honest with you, we don't even have the word to say thank you. We just show appreciation, but we never say the word. We actually borrow from Malay or from English or from Mandarin. Yeah. Okay. It might be strange to say that we borrow from Mandarin, but it is not common for a lot of Bidayu children go to Chinese school. They speak more Mandarin than they speak their own native language. Yeah. I was in Chinese school, but I ran away. I went to public school instead. Yeah. Okay. So if you commit adultery, for example, in the longhouse, both men and woman has to provide one big pig each, and these two big pig is to be blamed of the bad behavior. So poor pig, this is the pig which is going to slaughter to replace the human who actually committed wrongdoing. Yeah. So after slaughtering this pig, it's actually going to be shared with the family. And I think that's it. They don't say anymore after they slaughter the pigs. Everything will be forgotten. Yeah. Or not like us in the modern days, because we don't give offerings, we just apologize. People keep on talking about it, not just among friends, but we put on social media, on Facebook, for example. It becomes viral. But among the indigenous communities, they don't do that. You do wrongdoing, you go and see the headman will decide what kind of punishment you do. And in the old days, you just shut everybody's mouth by offering them one big pig. Yeah? Simple. No politics. Okay, so I would like to show you the second YouTube video. Did you say something wrong? We just want to see the YouTube video that shows the dance for the Bidayu. Okay, that was a bit too long. In fact, that is the shortest one that I could find on YouTube. And it can go on and on and on and on until the next morning. So be prepared if you are interested to come and visit this community. You have to have a lot of stamina. Anyway, so we leave the Bidayu in the south. Now we are going to the north where the Orang Ulu are. And I know that in the audience, you have someone from Sarawak as well, from the Kenyah community. So because, okay, hang on. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the Orang Ulu actually include the Kelabit, the Kayan, the Kenyah, the Lun Bawang, the Sekapan, the Kejaman, and so forth, so forth, so forth. Why? Because at the time when government officers try to put these people together, they look at the element of culture. Yeah, they look at the festivals. When they see anyone who dance with feathers, or wear feathers, they assume they are coming from the same ethnic group. So all these groups who actually dance with feathers, they put it as the Orang Ulu. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's how we were categorized before. And it's like the Bidayu and Iban, for example, we were called Dayak, and Dayak doesn't even make sense in Iban language. Dayak in my language means the others, okay? So we are called ourselves as the others. So anyway, so if you look at the Orang Ulu, their culture are very different compared to the Iban and Bidayu because of, not just because of their geographical location, but also because there are certain elements in their livelihood that influence the way they present themselves, in the way they speak about their identity. The languages, of course, they are very different. The Kayan, Kenyah, Kelabit, Lun Bawang, they don't actually understand each other unless they learn each other's language. Yet they dance the same dance movement, yet they observe the same birds. And also now, of course, they are all Christians. Most of them are Christians, but we do have younger generations who actually embrace the traditions. And I am so happy to present to you a good friend of mine called Adrian Jomilang, who actually learned this tradition and make it significant. Yeah. So this is actually, I don't understand much Kenya, but this is actually a kind of welcoming song. Can we share the folklore song?
di pa tirayu di pa tira kui pala nyamake kanra tan me halam luna maju ma dalam bawa ngatura ma dalam bawa ngaduan hanya petin telun tabi nuwe nya petin telun
Tapi mau nya kiwal masuk buka karole yo ngayong nganik kule elege ju sunong nganik kule elege pun kalung niha laka uwe pundok mata ulo anu me pun lebat nina uja alalan me temi lolong tinga hari mas nilai nak saluna alawan alima talo palayu hadia talo palayu palagi janliba janliba tubong lagi kita tula janliba nate tuma atula alima ai musaliha awalan musawawiha.
Thank you. That is actually the no musical instrument performance that has been performed everywhere in Malaysia. They have also been performing at international, and it's very unique because like the folklore that is sung in such presentation is actually depicting the life in the old days. Yeah, they were performing in Kuala Lumpur with the whole series of events that include the instrument called sape, yeah, and also include the dance called Datun Julud. Okay, I do not want to speak about how they live, what they eat, or how they dress, because they eat, they live like us. Okay, so that is something common among all the indigenous people in Malaysia and all over the world. We do not wear our costume every day, and we don't look distinct from any other ethnic groups unless we have certain kind of tattoo that's significant to our practices or our rituals or our belief. Yeah. Okay. There is a dance that I want to show on YouTube that I would like to share with you, but please just one half second just to introduce. It's called Datun Julud, and this is actually danced by the women. But we also have male dance, but I could not find a nice version on the YouTube to share with you. Can we just play it for a couple of seconds, few seconds? Oh, that's a bit too short. Never mind. It's okay. As long as you can see, you can always look it on YouTube. You just put Datun Julud, Orang Ulu, it will come out. Many of them. Yeah. So this is a kind of introductions. And then the instrument that I really want you to see is called sape. Sape is very special because it is an instrument that is cutting across all indigenous group in Sarawak and also in Kalimantan, Indonesia. For your information, once upon a time, Borneo Island doesn't have any boundaries. So historically, like my group, for example, we're actually coming from Lembah Kapuas, as the historians say. And Lembah Kapuas is actually located in the east of Kalimantan. So, of course, those days we are very mobile people. We come based on the resources. So, it could be that in Borneo, we are all the same people. So, we do share the element of culture. Like, for example, the Daya in Kalimantan is actually referring to the Orang Ulu in Sarawak. Yeah. So they are Iban in Kalimantan, which we call Iban as well. So they also weave the same textile. They also did head hunting. They also do everything that we do here in Sarawak. Okay. So I do not want to show you the video, but you can look up on the internet. But I really want to show you how do you call that? A very famous local singer. She's not 100% native. Her mother is European. Her father is a Kalabit. Okay, but she live here. She is 100% Kalabit in terms of presentation and identity. So she basically has brought the songs, the folklore songs, to another level, and she has done a lot of um, reviving works on all of these songs to make it very contemporary. If you subscribe to Deezer and Spotify, her songs are all there. Can we just play one of these songs in order to conclude Sarawak before we go to Sabah? You go to Alina Morang. Enjoy the song. Okay, why I show you this video? Because if you look at of all of the indigenous people that I have shown you on the other videos, the significance of colors, black, red, white, and also yellow, and the movement. So if you sum up, like in Sarawak, for example, all the movements of the dance and also the spiritual things that are related to our old traditions is basically related to the hornbills, related to the colors that is originally worn. Those days they don't wear tops, yeah, very sexy. They just wear black skirt, but after the introductions of red, they actually wear that as the top. Okay, so now I would like you to explore more in YouTube to look at all of this, yeah, in order to have some more ideas about this. But before we leave in many next few minutes, I just want to bring you briefly to Sabah, Negeri di Bawah Bayu, state below the wind, it's called, yeah. I don't know why it's below the wind because they are up in the north. Okay, so if you look at Sabah, there are again 39 different indigenous ethnic groups, and they are known as native or anak negeri that actually make up some 58.6% of Sabah population of almost 4 million. So the main groups are the Dusun, Murut, Paitan, and Baja groups. So if I just want to show you the next slide. If you look at those pictures, they wear mostly black with some stash in gold, in red, again, very similar to the indigenous people in Sarawak. And if you look at the dance, it's almost similar, but it's just different combinations and also different movements. Perhaps it brings different meanings. And in the state, yeah, in Malaysia, the most beautiful people was said to be coming from Sabah. I don't want to dispute that, but I also say there's a lot of beautiful orang asli women. There's a lot of beautiful indigenous people from Sarawak, so as the Chinese, Malay, and Indian. So each one are having very unique face, very unique skin complexions, and all those kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay. So they are the Kadazan Dusun, the Rungus, and Bajau Laut that I would like to share with you because these are very distinct and it represents some of the other groups. Like, for example, the Kadazan, they are basically one ethnic group, but there is also Dusun. But in a few years ago, these two names has been combined together. And again, they are no different. They are like me and you, but they also speak a very different language. Okay, so I would like to show you briefly the way they dance. Okay, why dance is very important? Because that is the self-expressions of identity. Just briefly. And this dance is called Magunati. Okay, that's just a little bit of Magunati for you, but you can see that on my slide, you can go and continue to watch that dance. But there's another group which is very unique, which actually quite similar to Orang Seletar in the peninsula, which are called Bajau Laut in Sabah. There's a lot of things to talk about: the food, the seafood, the vegetables, different type of cooking, the rice one, which is called lihing as well. All this can be explored and is easily available. So I'm just introducing them to you. So if we can just look at Bajau Laut for a few seconds so that you have an idea. They're actually the ethnic group that live by the sea. They used to be called sea nomad because they're moving from one place to another place and they never have village. Only recently when schools are introduced to the children, they basically stay at one place, but they always move back to the sea. Few seconds. The last one. Number 3.
The open sea. It is the wildest, the most unexplored. And it remains mysterious to many of us. I keep learning and exploring, and I keep searching, as there are so many questions left unanswered that surface in my mind. For so many years, I've been traveling alone by myself through the frost-biting cold in the Arctic, to the blistering heat in the desert, to the highest peak of the Himalayas. And now, I want to explore a world that is totally bizarre to me. One that is unusual and unknown, something I'm unfamiliar with. The open sea, the ocean. I want to dive deep and see the life beneath. I want to explore the remote areas of the Pacific Islands and try to understand the culture, the way of life of its people. I'm an adventurer. I love to explore. Going to new places, meeting new people always excites me. Learning new things.
So that's the Bajau Laut. Again, you will be able to see the whole documentary about them on YouTube. Very interesting because they actually can dive in the sea to look for squid, to look for fish or whatever, and can hold their breath much longer than ordinary people. Okay. Last but not least, my last slide. We should not forget the last nomadic and semi-nomadic group in Malaysia. Among the orang asli is the Batik group and also the Penan. So as you can see there on the slide, you can also look at this on YouTube by yourself. There's a whole lot of documentary. So I end here. Do we have any questions? No questions? Thank you so much that you have enjoyed.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. William, for such an informative workshop. Today, I'm sure that everyone here had already gained a lot of remarkable knowledge about our indigenous community. Unfortunately, we had to end this session. But right now, we were also having our buddies performing one of the famous bamboo dances originate from the indigenous community, specifically the Melanau, Murut, and the Bajau communities in Borneo. Dear participants, don't forget to fill out the survey form that we have provided in the chat box, as we would like to hear much more feedback and suggestion from you. Ladies and gentlemen, the fun does not just end here, as we have much more exciting sessions in store for all of you tomorrow, which will be the workshop of martial arts from Asian countries and the Thai language session. Additionally, don't move just yet, because after this, we will be flying all the way to Italy to learn about the Italian language. So stay tuned, everyone. And that's all from me, your MC, Ainali. See you again, and Nabil, the floor is yours. Thank you.